Why is hope so hard to come by, especially for somebody my age? Why is it so hard to embody the temperament that we're talking about within the hopeful majority? Why is it so hard these days to be tolerant, to listen to each other, to be patient? Why is it hard to be vulnerable, to give people the chance to be better? Not to score some political win, but just to advance our politics and our society and our democracy. I think there's three parts to answering this question. The first is life experience. I think how we grow up, where we grow up, during what times we grew up, has a huge impact on our temperament. Take somebody my age. I'm 24 years old. I was born in New Jersey. I lived in India for some time with my grandparents when my parents lived out in the US. Then I moved back, moved around every 2 years until high school, and then went to college and graduated in 2020. The four major events that had defined my lifetime. I was born around 9/11. I graduated middle school during the Great Recession. I went to high school during the year that was 2016, that presidential election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and then graduated college in 2020 during the pandemic and the Capitol riots in 2021 and the Black Lives Matter protests in that summer. Not a great sample size of boundless progress and optimism and democracy. And I know some of the folks that are listening that are from older generations can relate to their lived experiences. We're growing up at a time of tumult, of uncertainty, where people can't trust each other, where people are losing faith in institutions, where somebody my age doesn't necessarily understand what this democracy thing is or why it actually is effective or needed, because it seems like it's not working. Last spring, the Harvard Institute of Politics came out with a study. It'll be linked in the description, where it cites the fact that 38% of young people are demonstrating indifference towards democracy as an institution. But that doesn't surprise me. There's skepticism. If the only thing that I've seen in our politics and our democracy and our society is constant conflict and upheaval, then the first question that I would ask anybody is why? And the second question I would ask anybody is, what can we do about it? And this brings me to point number 2, a lack of visionary leadership. The people that are in charge of answering that question of how we get out of this, how do we solve our current moment, how do we address the discord in our society? Well, it seems like they're not driven by actually genuinely answering that question. It seems like a lot of our leaders in our politics and our society are incentivized by dividing people. It seems like they're incentivized by profit. It seems like they're incentivized due to the preconditions outlined by polarization. If I'm somebody running in a primary, 10% of Americans turn out in a primary on average, and most of those 10% are not in the hopeful majority. They're on the temperamental extremes. Again, not ideological, temperamental extremes. People that are the most passionate, most unwilling to listen, they're turning out. Those are the people that I'm incentivized by. Our current leaders are not answering the question and the call of how we revive, center, and strengthen this American experiment for everybody. We're about to enter 2024 with a rematch, likely rematch. Regardless, it could be front runners between President Biden and President Trump. Now, I don't care where you stand on the political spectrum or what you think of them. But the fact is that if our political system is somehow producing two leaders that probably have the lowest approval ratings in history of past presidents, two leaders that have presided during some of the most divisive times in American history, and importantly, regardless of whether you think they've created accomplishments or have created sincere threats to our democracy, have not necessarily answered that call, then our visionary leadership is lost, especially for somebody my age. That's not a great recipe for faith, for hope, for having this temperament of patience and sitting back. And the third and final piece is that we lack a vision and an understanding of what it means to be American. It doesn't have to be the same answer for everybody, but there isn't that vision that ignites. There isn't this feeling of upbeat optimism. I'm going to throw out something bold. And that something bold is the fact that I think that most people in this country, most people, everybody in the hopeful majority, most people want freedom. Most people want justice. Most people want opportunity. Most people want equality. I know it sounds very naive to say, even misplaced optimism. It sounds like I'm on Mars. And yet, why do I deeply, deeply believe that? Why do I believe that most people are on the same page? The reason I believe that is because I talk to everyday Americans as much as I possibly can. Go back to episode 1, where I talk about the road trip that changed and provided me insight on how I think about our moment in our politics. I went from Austin to Boston, drove through and met folks from all across the political spectrum, from different faith backgrounds, different ethnicities and race and gender. And almost everybody said something around 3 things. Everybody said, I want a family that does better than me, a society in which my kids prosper. I want to live in a country where I feel like I belong and that respects me. I want to live in a society where I can practice my aspirations. It's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. And yet, why do we believe that most people are not on the same page as us? Why do we believe and are driven to give into the fact that our most polarizing figures in our media and our politics tell us that, you are divided, that most people are not. In fact, not only are most people not on the same page, but most people do not like you and don't want you to exist. It's because all of our information, all of our perceptions are painted by the media. They're shaped by and filtered through what I call the polarization industrial complex. The polarization industrial complex undermines our ability to listen and hear each other, to see each other across difference. And of course, there's real value differences. I have no intention of papering over the real differences in our politics, but the role of leadership is to deliver a vision that speaks to our general aspirations, and most people have those aspirations. Just take a step back. There's widespread agreement on 5 or 6 of the top policy issues that Americans want progress and change on. And importantly, this is why I say that the hopeful majority is not only an essential antidote, but a necessary component to the solution of helping us see past those differences to understand that most of us want a vision. It's because the hopeful majority is ready to listen. We are people that are interested in hearing each other, in caring about each other, in empathizing across difference, in giving each other a chance to be better. We're willing to put down our phones and our social media feeds and actually go out there in the community and hear and see and talk to people that might be different than us. Not for some kumbaya feel-good reason, but for the hope and aspiration that e pluribus unum, out of many, one. Out of many, one. That's why the hopeful majority is a prerequisite for progress on policy issues, on material issues, in terms of advancing U.S. leadership. We need to first be able to listen and acknowledge each other. And that is why it is so difficult these days for people, especially somebody my age, to feel hopeful and feel that temperament. We are driven to urgent action or complete apathy and disengagement because of our life experiences, because of the leaders that are currently visible in our politics, because we are led to believe that most people in this society are out to get each other. And that's not true. That's not true. And I'm willing to bet on that truth.